At 6:42 a.m. on July 9, 2024, Daniel Vander Kolk stood beside a mechanical tree shaker near Traverse City, Michigan, watching his firmness meter display 220 grams force on freshly harvested Montmorency tart cherries, while his cherry central processing contract required maintaining 240 to 260 grams force for premium pie-filling grade. But overnight, temperatures had remained at 72 degrees Fahrenheit instead of dropping below 65 degrees Fahrenheit as forecasted, causing fruit to soften 18% faster than optimal and reducing the critical 10 to 14-day harvest window to possibly 8 days before cherries degraded below processing specifications. 55 years old, third-generation tart cherry grower, 120 acres producing 480,000 pounds annually in Michigan's dense lakeside corridor, where 35,000 acres supply 75% of U.S. tart cherry production. The mechanical shaker had processed 28 acres across 3 days, leaving 92 acres unharvested with fruit firmness declining at rates of 15 to 20 grams force per day in warm conditions. And Cherry Central's processing facility scheduled to receive his delivery starting July 15th with strict quality rejections for fruit below 240 grams force. Standard procedure said harvest remaining acreage over 6 days, maintaining quality standards, accept some fruit loss to over-ripening, and prioritize grade specifications over volume completion. Vander Kolk had processing slots contracted for 480,000 pounds at 52 cents per pound for premium grade. Weather forecasts showing continued 70 degrees Fahrenheit, plus temperatures accelerating firmness degradation. And calculations showing that delaying harvest to maintain quality standards would leave 140,000 pounds unharvested when fruit fell below processing minimums. He called his shaker operator and his hydro cooling facility. They'd accelerate harvest to 18-hour days, covering 15 acres daily. Accept marginal firmness readings averaging 235 to 245 grams force across the remaining blocks, and rely on immediate hydro cooling, dropping fruit temperature from 75 degrees Fahrenheit to 38 degrees Fahrenheit within 90 minutes to halt degradation before processing facility delivery. Michigan's tart cherry corridor operates as America's concentrated superfruit production region. 35,000 acres along Lake Michigan's eastern shore, producing 300 million pounds annually, supplying 75% of U.S. tart cherry consumption through mechanical harvest systems where hydraulic shakers vibrate tree limbs at 1,200 cycles per minute, dislodging fruit into catching frames. Moving cherries immediately to hydro-cooling tanks, maintaining 34 to 38 degrees Fahrenheit water temperatures, preventing enzymatic softening, and delivering to processing facilities within 4 to 6 hours for pie filling, juice concentrate, and dried cherry production. Every July, growers face 10 to 14-day harvest windows where fruit transitions from underripe, hard, low bricks, to optimal, firm, 14 to 16 bricks, to overripe, soft, high susceptibility to bruising and rot. In temperature-dependent progressions that warm weather accelerates unpredictably, creating timing pressures where single-day delays cost 5 to 8% of crop value through quality degradation. The processing contracts reject without flexibility for weather conditions growers cannot control. Daniel Vander Kolk learned tart cherry production from his father, who established the orchard in 1978, when Michigan growers were transitioning from hand-harvest ladder picking to mechanical shaker systems requiring tree architecture modifications and post-harvest cooling infrastructure. His father had grown 45 acres selling cherries to local canneries at commodity prices averaging 28 to 38 cents per pound with loose quality standards. Vander Kolk expanded in 2004, increasing to 120 acres, developed Cherry Central contracts paying 52 cents per pound for fruit meeting strict firmness and brick specifications, and invested $380,000 in mechanical shakers and hydro-cooling systems. But processing contract sophistication created new vulnerabilities. When weather compressed harvest windows, quality specifications developed for optimal conditions became rejection criteria that commodity markets never imposed. The mechanical shaker Vander Kolk operated cost $185,000 new in 2019. The machine featured hydraulic clamps gripping tree trunks, oscillating arms vibrating at adjustable frequencies, dislodging cherries while minimizing stem and leaf debris, and catching frames capturing falling fruit, directing it to collection bins. The system processed 4 to 5 acres daily under optimal conditions when fruit released cleanly at proper ripeness. But accelerated harvest attempting 6 to 7 acres daily risked capturing underripe fruit mixed with optimal fruit, degrading average quality scores that processing facilities measured across entire loads. The economics were processing contract dependent and firmness sensitive. At Cherry Central premium rates of 52 cents per pound for tart cherries, maintaining 240 to 260 grams. Force firmness and 14 to 16 bricks sugar content. Production of 480,000 pounds generated $249,600 in gross revenue. Tree maintenance costs ran $420 per acre annually for pruning and training. Pest management controlling cherry fruit fly, $185 per acre. Irrigation supplementing rainfall, $140 per acre. Frost protection systems preventing spring bloom damage, $280 per acre. Mechanical harvest including shaker rental and labor, $380 per acre. Hydro cooling and delivery, 4 cents per pound or $19,200 total. Combined costs, $1,405 per acre times 120 acres equals $168,600 total against $249,600 revenue. Operating profit, $81,000. After equipment depreciation, actual net income around $38,000. But if firmness degradation caused fruit to fall below 240 grams, forced triggering processing rejection and forcing sale to juice markets at 22 cents per pound, revenue dropped to $105,600, and the operation lost $63,000. The margin between processing grade premium and juice grade commodity was 20 grams force of firmness maintained over 10 to 14 days. Where temperature fluctuations determined fruit physiology changes, growers couldn't reverse. At 8:40 a.m., Vander Kolk had mobilized the extended harvest schedule. The mechanical shaker would operate 6 a.m. to midnight, covering 15 acres daily, 50% more than standard rates. The accelerated pace meant harvesting fruit at 225 to 235 grams force in morning blocks that would normally be delayed 2 to 3 days to reach 240 to 250 firmness. But waiting meant evening blocks currently at 245 to 255 would degrade to 230 to 240, creating the same marginal quality outcome with reduced total harvest volume. His daughter Sarah arrived at 10:20 a.m. to help coordinate the cooling logistics. 38 years old, holding a food science degree from Michigan State. She'd worked the operation for 12 years, while recognizing that tart cherry production had evolved from fruit farming into post-harvest temperature management, requiring expertise in enzyme kinetics, cooling system engineering, and processing contract compliance that had nothing to do with growing trees. Sarah tracked data showing Michigan tart cherry operations consolidating from 940 growers in 2005 to 420 in 2024, with average farm size increasing from 37 to 83 acres. Small orchards were disappearing as mechanical harvest investments and processing contract requirements created barriers favoring either large operations with equipment redundancy or complete exit from cherry production. Dad, we're harvesting at 225 to 235 grams force to protect volume completion. If hydro-cooling doesn't halt degradation perfectly, we'll deliver marginal fruit that processing might reject. That's the gamble. Delay harvest to protect quality and lose 30% of crop to over-ripening, or accelerate harvest accepting marginal firmness and bet on cooling technology stopping degradation. Then maybe we've built a system with no weather flexibility. Large operations running 400+ acres have the volume to absorb partial harvest losses. We're betting the entire season on temperature control that specs never anticipated warm weather harvest conditions. Van der Kolk understood. His daughter was identifying the structural vulnerability. Mid-sized tart cherry operations had invested in cooling adequate for normal harvest timing, but lacked the redundancy and scale to handle compressed windows when weather accelerated fruit physiology beyond control systems' capacity to compensate. By July 12th at 4 p.m., the accelerated harvest had completed 73 acres. Firmness readings across harvested fruit averaged 238 grams force, 2 grams below the 240 minimum, but within measurement variation that might test acceptable at processing facility. The hydro-cooling system had maintained 36 degrees Fahrenheit water temperatures, dropping fruit from 74 degrees Fahrenheit field temperature to 38 degrees Fahrenheit within 85 minutes. The cooling had worked as designed, but couldn't reverse softening that had occurred on the tree before harvest. Cherry Central's quality inspector arrived July 15th to sample the delivered load. The inspector extracted 50-pound samples from delivery bins, measured firmness using calibrated penetrometers, and tested Brix levels using refractometers. Results: average firmness, 236 grams force. Average Brix, 15.2%. The firmness fell 4 grams below specification. The Brix met standards. Cherry Central invoked the quality clause. Fruit below 240 grams, force would be purchased at juice grade pricing of 22 cents per pound instead of processing grade 52 cents. Final season economics after the weather-compressed harvest. 480,000 pounds at 22 cents per pound generated $105,600 revenue against $168,600 in costs. Operating loss, $63,000. The warm weather that compressed the harvest window by 4 to 6 days had eliminated the operation's entire profit margin and created a loss that consumed previous season's modest earnings. Daniel van der Kolk continued tart cherry farming through 2026, managing harvest timing and cooling systems while watching margins compress as frost protection costs increased 24%. And Cherry Central contract prices remained flat at 52 cents per pound for premium grade. In spring 2027, Cherry Central announced new sourcing requirements. Tart cherry suppliers must deliver minimum 800,000 pounds annually beginning in 2028. A 67% increase over Van der Kolk's current 480,000 pound production. Meeting the requirement meant expanding to 200 acres and investing $640,000 in additional trees, shaking equipment, and cooling capacity. He met with Sarah in April 2027 to discuss expansion feasibility. The analysis was stark. $640,000 infrastructure investment against break-even operations in recent years meant indefinite payback periods with zero tolerance for weather-compressed harvests that had eliminated profits entirely. Sarah had no interest in inheriting debt-financed expansion into an industry where processor consolidation was systematically eliminating mid-sized growers through volume requirements. Sarah: Nikos, we either scale to meet Cherry Central's minimum or we exit processing contracts and compete in fresh fruit markets at $1.20 per pound, but with 90% shorter shelf life and 40% volume shrinkage from quality standards. Dad, Both options depend on terms we don't control. Expansion locks us into cherry central dependency. Fresh markets mean competing without the post-harvest infrastructure that justifies our cooling investments. Daniel Vander Kolk sold his 120-acre tart cherry operation to a regional fruit corporation managing 1,800 acres across northwest Michigan in fall 2027. The sale, $28,000 per acre for mature cherry orchards plus $180,000 for equipment, generated $3.54 million gross. After settling debt, Vander Kolk netted $1.82 million. Sarah took a position with Cherry Central as a quality control manager, using her Michigan State food science education and family cherry knowledge to establish the firmness standards that had consumed her family's operation. Michigan's 35,000 acres continue producing 300 million pounds of tart cherries annually along Lake Michigan's dense corridor, harvesting with mechanical shakers vibrating at 1,200 cycles per minute, hydro cooling to 38 degrees Fahrenheit within 90 minutes, and supplying 75% of U.S. tart cherry consumption to processing facilities demanding 240 to 260 grams force firmness. The hydraulic shakers harvest fruit regardless of farm ownership. The hydro cooling systems halt degradation regardless of who built them. The processing specifications determine grade regardless of which families developed the orchard systems. The industry persists through precision that family operations created but can no longer sustain profitably at scales too small for weather risk absorption and volume commitments processors now demand. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories of American agriculture's transformation. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and whether you understand the harvest window pressures crushing specialty fruit growers. Thank you for keeping their stories alive.